A few weeks ago, I was shopping for Shabbos in one of the local supermarkets in LA. It's called La Brea Kosher. As I'm checking out, I have my bags in my hand, and I'm walking out the door, and I hear someone yell, "Rabbi Gold, Rabbi Gold!" I turn around. I see a middle-aged woman. She says, "Rabbi Gold, have I got a story for you?" Now, I always tell people, my brother's in real estate, I always tell people that whatever a good piece of real estate is to a real estate investor, that's what a good, true story is to me. If I hear someone wants to share a story with me, I'll be here all night. I put my bags down, and I'm all ears. And she proceeds to tell me the following story. She says, my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, was walking on La Brea. That's the main avenue. I don't know what it is in Queens. It's like 13th Avenue in Borough Park, Coney Island in Flatbush. That's La Brea in LA. My daughter was walking on La Brea. She was walking past the Young Israel of La Brea. She notices there's an officer that's issuing a ticket to a car that's parked illegally by an expired meter. So she looks at the car, she looks at the officer, she looks at the synagogue, the shul, the Young Israel, and she realizes that this car must belong to someone davening in Young Israel right now. It was around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, mincha time, whenever they were davening mincha. She says, he probably can't come out to refill his meter, I gotta help him out. She runs over to the officer. She says, "Officer, I think this belongs to a Jew inside the shul. Do you mind if I put in a quarter for him? He can't come out, he's praying." The officer looks at the girl, he's very impressed. And he says to her, "You know what? It's your lucky day today. I still haven't printed the ticket." She proceeds to put in a quarter. She thanks the officer, and the officer walks away, and I'm ready to pick up my bags and walk away, and I'm telling her that it's a beautiful story. This is a reflection of the tremendous chinuch that she invested in her child. It's absolutely beautiful. Thinking to myself in the back of my mind, can I make a video about this or not? I don't think so. It's not sensational. It's not that emotional. Okay, we're going to leave it. But it's a beautiful story. And as I'm about to walk away, she turns to me, she says, "Rabbi Gold, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going. I have to go." She said, "No, the story is not over." I'm like, "It's not?" She says, "No." So I put my bags back down, and she says, my daughter, after putting the quarter in the meter, she thought to herself, one second, who says this belongs to a Jew in the shul? Maybe it belongs to a guy at McDonald's on the corner that had to park right over here. Who knows? I was thinking maybe the guy couldn't come out. He was in the middle of davening. Who knows? Who says this is the guy in the shul? She decides to wait. She wanted to see who the car belongs to. She waits, and waits. Rabbi Gold, 10 minutes later, everybody files out of the shul, and you'll never believe whose car it was. And I'm thinking to myself, what's it got to do with me? I gotta go, lady. Why are you holding me up? And she looks at me and she says, "Rabbi Gold, it was your car." She sees you walking over to the car. It's amazing how a story, when it's personal, it becomes sensational. It's amazing. And I'm like, really? It was my car. I'm embarrassed, I'm blushing, and I'm thinking to myself, really, I had no idea that she spared me a ticket. I find out her name, her address. I go to Coffee Bean, I buy her a $25 gift card. I still saved myself $35. I write a nice note, and as I'm delivering the note and I'm dropping it off, I think to myself, how many people in my life, behind the scenes, are doing for me, are dropping those quarter in my meter even while I'm parked illegally, and I forget to think? It's an incredible question. I had this aha moment for myself. I'm dropping off this gift card and a note, and I'm thinking to myself, who else? Who else don't I know about? And then I thought to myself, well, it's probably the people we take for granted. People we take for granted, we forget about. Our parents, right? Our spouses, our children. tonight, I really think that we take a step back. You know, any event that Chazaq does, we have to really think about who puts it together and how much work it goes in. So really a personal thank you to Chazaq. Behind the scenes, Chazaq does tremendous work. Thank you very much. And I'll tell you why this work is so important, especially what he just announced. Every Jewish child deserves a Jewish education. I want to tell you a story that I never was able to put on video. If you don't know, I put out videos about stories. My passion is sharing stories. If I hear a good story, I must put it on video or write it up and share it with as many people as I can. And I heard the story when I was younger. This is a famous story. Maybe you heard of it, maybe not. It's a famous story, a very old story. Story goes about a Jewish family in Detroit in 1928. 1928, Jewish family in Detroit, we'll call them the Newman family. I don't want to share their name, you'll see why. We'll call them the Newman family. The Newman family lives in Detroit in 1928. The father is the Rosh HaKol, the president of the shul. And they have a maid, a housekeeper from Ireland. Her name is Mary Shine. That's her name, Mary Shine. That's her real name, Mary Shine. She immigrated from Ireland, she moved to America and settled in Detroit. And she started working by the Newman family. And it was around December time. December 25th was coming up. And of course, that's the non-Jewish holiday, December 25th. You know, Christmas was coming up. And she felt, she didn't know the Jewish customs, she just moved to America. She felt like she wanted to do something spectacular. She wanted to bring in the holiday spirit in the home. So she takes the children, they had two children, two little boys, takes the children while the parents were away, they were out to work, they were out wherever they were. She takes the children and she goes and buys a tree with a wreath. She buys all the decorations, she brings it home, she sets it up, she decorates the home, and sure enough, 7 o'clock in the evening, as the Newman parents pull into their driveway, they notice the tree in the window, and they can't fathom what's going on. They pull in and they come in and they realize that Mary decorated the home thinking that she was doing them a favor. Instead of the menorah, she put a tree. The father walks over to Mary Shine. This was a few months into the job. She calls her into his study and he says to her, listen, Mary, I really appreciate what you did. This is the most wonderful thing anyone has ever done for me. And he takes out his wallet and he proceeds to hand her a $20 bill. Now in 1928, that's a fortune of money. And he says, here's your first bonus. Thank you very much. I'm going to take the tree down right now because we don't celebrate this holiday. We celebrate Hanukkah. Okay? We celebrate Hanukkah. Please don't be offended. Takes the tree down, puts a menorah instead. It was Hanukkah time. And Mary was so impressed. The story goes that when she got married, she had children. She married a guy, and she had a child, Neil Shine. Neil Shine became the editor of the Detroit Free Press years later. And her son, as the editor of the Detroit Free Press, never shared or never published an anti-Semitic article in the paper, even though it's a left-wing paper, because of what his mother shared with him about Jews. She made such a Kiddush Hashem, she shared the story about this Kiddush Hashem, he never wanted to publish an anti-Semitic article. Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is a wonderful story. It could be watched by Jews and non-Jews alike. What a Kiddush Hashem, amazing, right? This year, Hanukkah and Christmas fell out on the same day. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is the video. We're going to make a video about the story. It took me a few weeks to reach the Shine family. Neil Shine passed away. His son, Dan Shine, is alive and well in Detroit. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to travel to Detroit, interview Dan Shine. He surely knows the story. And I'm going to ask him to get on camera, share it with the world, and it'll be a tremendous Kiddush Hashem. Not only that, I'll go to the Newman family. I'll get the Newman family on camera. What a video, right? Incredible. Dan Shine, the grandson of Mary, the son of Neil, tells me, of course we remember the story. This is a story that's in the family, right? It's almost 100 years later. But he knew it. I said, Dan, when can I come to Detroit? I live in LA. He says, you can come tomorrow. I immediately organized a crew, cameras, lights. We're coming, Dan. That's it. We're doing a video. We got to share this story with the world. Jewish pride, Kiddush Hashem, right? It's incredible. I go to Detroit, lights, camera, action. Dan is sitting there, a beautiful Catholic family. And they invited me into their home. They welcomed me in. And I'm thinking to myself, this is beautiful. And he's telling the story. My grandmother immigrated from Ireland. It's wonderful. She came to the Newman family. They treated her so respectfully, so kindly. And then there was this little misunderstanding, and they were so sensitive. Beautiful. I'm like, that's a wrap. Great. Fantastic. Now my job is to track down the Newman family. I tracked down the Newman family. Luckily, the granddaughter, right? We got the Shine grandson. Now it's the granddaughter. The granddaughter lives a few blocks away from me in LA. Track her down, and I ask her, is anyone in your family still alive? Your parents, your uncles, your aunts, your grandfather? She says, nobody's alive anymore. I'm left with a few of my cousins. I said to her, can I come over to your house and interview you? You remember the story with Mary Shine and your grandfather and the Kiddush Hashem that was made? She says, of course I do. I come to the family, it was in Sunset Boulevard, a beautiful, beautiful home, beautiful estate. I come in there, and there was a fireplace, and everything was gorgeous. And I sit down, and I say, please, go ahead. Lights, camera, action. And she starts sharing the story. Mary Shine immigrated from Ireland to America. She settled in Detroit. She worked for my grandparents. And came Hanukkah time, she put up a tree instead of a menorah. And when my grandfather came home, do you know what he did? He was so sensitive, so kind. He told her, it's a beautiful tree. Let's leave it where it is. Cut! Cut! You're ruining my video. That's not how the story goes. She says, that is how the story goes. I said, no. I was in Detroit. Dan told me that his father, Neil, who, by the way, Gary Turgo was a very big activist in Detroit, Rabbi Beryl Wine, they heard the story firsthand from Neil Shine. And Dan heard it too from his father. This is not the story, come on. She says, no, that is the story. She takes me around the bend in her home. She shows me her Christmas tree. She says, it's right now the season. We got the tree here. I said, so why did you invite me into your home? What did you think I was coming to interview for? This is not a sensational story. She says, yes, it is. The fact that my grandfather was able to adopt the values of the outside world without judgment, that's a beautiful story. No judgment. He was able to assimilate so easily. There goes my story. But I sat there for an hour trying to explain to her what it means to be a Jew and how the non-Jew appreciated the Jew because he understood that he was proud of who he was, where he came from, and what he stood for. And I was trying to explain to her, that's the sensation of the story, not the fact that you're able to assimilate and have a tree in your home. Today, there are so many Jews who are assimilated, so many Jews who don't feel Jewish pride. They don't appreciate who they are. The Torah says we're an Am Segula. Hashem chose us to be representatives of the Torah, to teach the world how to live life. A lot of people don't feel it, and a lot of from people don't feel it either. We're conditioned to act a certain way. And we have to instill in the Jewish people today a sense of pride that we're an Am Segula. How do we do it? By example. We feel a connection, we feel a pride, and that trickles down to the next generation. The topic tonight is the secret to a happy life. My brother texted me when he saw the topic. He said, Yoel, you have the secret to a happy life and you never shared it with me? How dare you? So I told him, Mayor, it's not that big of a secret. Let me tell you what the secret to a happy life is. In 1938, a group of researchers at Harvard conducted one of the most incredible studies ever done. Listen to this. They started tracking the lives of 724 kids, 7 or 8-year-olds, from all different backgrounds in the Boston area. They went to their schools, they went to their homes, they monitored their behavior, they listened to their conversation, they observed their interactions, They checked their blood, they scanned their brains, they documented every single detail of their life. They did this for 75 years. They tracked these kids for 75 years, a lifetime. It took them 4 generations of researchers to complete this study. Why? They wanted to find out, what is it exactly that keeps people happy and fulfilled as they go through life? In order to do that, they had to follow. The experiment had to be done in such a way where they followed these kids throughout their entire lives. Here's what they found. They found that those kids who had strong, positive, and healthy interpersonal relationships, bein adam l'chaveiro, those kids were significantly happier than anyone else throughout their lives. It's incredible. You know, not only that, they were able to predict with 90% accuracy when those guys were 50 years old, how healthy they will be when they were 80, based on the quality of their relationships in their lives when they were 50. Even their physical health depended on the quality of their relationships. You know what's incredible to me? It took Harvard 75 years, 4 generations of researchers, thousands of papers of information to figure out what David HaMelech sums up in just a few words. What does he say? Me'ir shel chafetz chaim. Who's a person who wants life, but not just any life? Oyhev yomim, he wants to love his days, he wants to be happy. Lirois toiv, he wants to be fulfilled, see the good in his life. You know what the key is? Nitzar l'shoncha, watch what you say about other people. Don't speak behind their backs. Be positive. Be a positive force. He says, Asay toiv, do good, watch how you treat other people. Bakei shalom, generate goodwill, pursue peace. Because David HaMelech understood thousands of years ago at Harvard, only understood now, after 75 years of research, that the cornerstone of a happy and fulfilling life is good relationships. That's what it boils down to. That's it. It's not a secret. It's a pasuk. If you want to boil down all of Torah to 3 words, v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Hashem gives us Torah, it's a guide. I want you to live a good life. If you want to boil it down on one leg, what is it? Be careful how you treat other people. So, I want to talk about a little bit interpersonal relationships. I know that everybody knows, you talk to a person, they know, yes, of course, don't speak lashon hara, hakarat tov, you have to feel gratitude, and all the different ideas and values we have in our minds, floating in our minds, which we have a hard time practicing. I remember when we moved to LA, my wife and I, a few years ago. My wife is originally from LA, I'm from Brooklyn. Now that I come back to Brooklyn, I live in Brooklyn. My parents, I grew up in Brooklyn. I could never imagine how I grew up here. LA is so much more calmer, but I go back to LA. Anyways, we moved to LA a few years ago, and I found this health food store. And we started shopping at this local health food store, and over some time, I became a health nut. I cut junk food out of my diet, chocolate out of my diet, sugar out of my diet, and one day I decided to take it to the next level. I decided to start juicing green vegetables every day. I remember I was so excited with the idea. I wanted to be healthy. I went to Best Buy. I bought myself the most expensive juicer on the shelf. I brought it home. I went to the health food store. I bought organic vegetables, green vegetables, fresh organic green vegetables. I brought it home, and I juiced breakfast, lunch, and supper. And by the end of the day, I was hoping to feel healthy, vibrant, and alive, and instead, I remember I couldn't get out of bed. My stomach was churning, and I was in such pain. I remember turning to my wife, and I asked her, honey, what's going on? I should be feeling great right now. I'm juicing. I'm doing everything right. I'll never forget that look. She turns to me, and she says, Yoel, I think it's the vegetables. I said, the vegetables? How could it be the vegetables? She says, yeah, I think it's the vegetables. You know how they say that in every relationship, one is always right, the other is the husband? Well, this was no different. My wife was right again. Turned out it was the vegetables I overjuiced. And as I was laying in bed, I remember thinking to myself, isn't it amazing? You can have the healthiest vegetables, the most expensive juicer, and the noblest of intentions, but if you don't know how to use what you have effectively, you'll never get the results you're looking for. Everybody knows the values of Benodam L'Chaveroi. We know, yeah, we have the ingredients, we have the juicer, we have everything. But somehow, as we go through life on a practical level, we struggle to apply it, to raise the level of the quality level of our relationships. I know, yeah, I got it, yes. But to apply it effectively in our lives, we struggle. It's very hard, very difficult. So I want to talk to you about 3 points. 3 points, share with you a few stories, and then I'm done. I tend to look at relationships and connections with other people sort of like a jigsaw puzzle. I want you to imagine right now in your mind's eye, think of a jigsaw puzzle, right, that's almost complete, and you have an empty space in the middle. You have an empty space in the middle, and you want to fill it in with a few of the last remaining pieces, okay? The problem is that all those pieces look alike. It's similar in shape, size, and color. How do you tell them apart? How do you differentiate those pieces? How do you know where to put each piece? So I brought you some pieces in my pocket. I want to show you something. So these pieces, right? I don't know if they look alike to you or not from afar. They might look similar, right? Might look similar in shape and size. But if you look closely, you'll realize that each piece has a protruding knob. This is called a knob, and this is called a hole. This is a hole, okay? The knobs and the holes. If you look very, very carefully, you'll notice that the knobs and the holes are different shapes. So even though overall they might both be white, and overall they might have a similar size, but if you look carefully, you'll see that the knobs and the holes are different. Now, in order for you to figure out where each piece goes, you will have to see the edges around that empty space, look carefully at the knobs and the holes, take a piece, look carefully at the piece, at the protruding knob and the hole, and then try to fill in the knob in the correct hole. That's it. I view relationships very similar. You know, the knobs and the holes to me represent Ma'alasech and Sroinus. No two people are alike. Every piece, like a jigsaw puzzle, every piece is different. We're just different. Everybody is different. You know, I grew up Hasidish in Williamsburg. My name is Yoel. I used to have curly payas. When I grew up, I went to Litvish Yeshiva. I went to Passaic, Lakewood, and the Mir. I got married to a Sephardi, and now I'm a rabbi at the Yekesh Shul. All different. And I can tell you firsthand, everybody is different. Not just group-wise, not just in a collective way, but in an individual way. We're all different. Step number 1 is we have to accept that everybody is different. We can't look at each other and judge them and say, you're not like me, there's something wrong with you, I'm better than you. No. Everybody is different, like a puzzle. Every piece is different, and guess what? If we would all be the same, there would be no purpose to having doubles. You know that the Rosh Hashanah says that the word shav in vain is similar to the word shaveh, similar, the same. When it's shaveh, it's shav. You can't have two people alike. Everybody is different. The trick is to look at your surroundings and say, let me see which hole I can fill. If we want to connect with our community, with our family, with our friends, look at yourself like a puzzle and ask yourself one question. What is my gift? What is my talent? What is the skill that Hashem gave me? Where is there a hole? Where is there a need? What can I fill? That's connection. And then you connect one piece to the next. Shalom, Bake Shalom means to pursue peace. From the word complete. If we complete each other, not because we're the same, but because we're different, that's peace. Got a great story for you that illustrates this point. Great story. My cousin, I have a cousin he used to be a criminal lawyer. Now he is a real estate investor. He is retired from law. His name is Frank Mendel. Lives in Manhattan. Frank Mendel was in an American Airlines flight. You're not going to believe this story. This is a great story. An American Airlines flight, sitting next to his business partner, Chaim Kaufman. He has a business partner, Chaim Kaufman. They traveled together. They were in Newark Airport on an American Airlines flight, traveling to Dallas, Texas. They're about to take off. The pilot gets onto the intercom and says, everybody, please turn off all of your electronic devices. We're about to take off. Okay? Chaim Kaufman puts his hand in his pocket to turn off his cell phone, and all of a sudden he lets out a shriek. And he says, oh no! Frank goes, what happened? He says, I forgot my cell phone at the charging station by the gate. Now I'm sure everybody here understands that you have your whole life on your cell phone. You have all your contact information, all of your meetings, everything is on your cell phone. Who remembers a number today? I mean, when I was a kid, we used to remember numbers. Now, nobody. Who remembers directions anymore? Nobody, right? Everything is on the phone, right? This guy, Chaim Kaufman, had all the meetings, every event, his presentations, his PowerPoint, everything was on that phone. He's like, I forgot my phone. We're going to Dallas for 2 days on a business trip. What's with my phone? He was panicking. And there was a flight attendant that was walking past in the aisle. And Chaim, in panic, he grabs the flight attendant's sleeve and he says, sir, could you help me? I forgot my phone at the charging station. I know you can't get it back, but could you please put it in lost and found? So when I get back, at least I'll get it. This guy's name was Steve Cooley. Steve says, hang in there for a second. He disappears into the cockpit for a few minutes. He comes back out, walks over to Chaim Kaufman, hands him his phone and his charger. The plane was moving already, by the way. Hands him his phone and his charger, and he says, don't forget your phone again. Chaim looks at him and says, how did you get my phone? The plane is moving. We're away from the gate. So Steve says, it's pretty simple. I walked over to the pilot. I said to him, there's a passenger. I guess it helps to be in business class. There's a passenger in business class that forgot his phone. Is there anything we could do? The pilot was in touch with the air traffic controller at the tower. He says, could you please contact the gate? He couldn't contact the gate himself directly because he was in touch with the air traffic controller at the tower so he can take off. The air traffic controller at the tower contacts the gate. There was still a service agent at the gate, picks up the phone, lets him know there's a phone there, and see please if you can get it back onto the flight. The guy runs over to the charging station, grabs the phone, runs out onto the tarmac, and he sees one of those trucks with a scissor lift they used to put the food on the plane. He hands it to the truck driver, who's on the scissor lift, says, you see flight number 5031 that's about to take off. He's over there, he's heading to the runway, he's still on the tarmac, inching slowly. Please get it over to the pilot. He runs over, right? The truck driver on the scissor lift drives over to the plane. You're not going to believe this, but I spoke to Steve Cooley. I spoke to the people. And the guy raises the scissor lift, lines up with the plane. The pilot opens his window, the cockpit window. I bet you never knew that it opens the cockpit window, throws the phone and the charger to the pilot, gives it to Steve Cooley, who hands it back to Chaim Kaufman. You can clap. Frank tells me the story, and I say, Frank, this is such a great story. What is the message? Like, I want to share it with people. This is just unbelievable. He says, the message is, always fly American Airlines. But here's the message. Let me ask you a question. How many people did it take to return Chaim Kaufman's phone on the plane? I'll tell you. It took the flight attendant, the pilot, the service agent, the air traffic controller at the tower, and the truck driver who was driving the scissor lift. 5 people. 5 people, 5 different professions. They might not even be speaking the same language, from different backgrounds, all working together towards a common goal. The Torah says like this, Parshas B'chukaisai, that chamisha mikem, 5 people in times of peace will chase away 100, meya yirdofu, will chase away 100. You ask yourself, the Arachaim HaKadosh asks, how can it be the 5 people can chase away 100? That's crazy. How do you have 5 people chasing away 100? Says the Arachaim HaKadosh, you forgot a pasuk that the Torah mentions a few psukim earlier. It says, v'nasati shalom ba'aretz. There will be shalom in the land, there will be peace in the land. What does it mean, peace? Think about the puzzle pieces. Everybody working together, doing their thing, respecting each other, understanding each other. Yes, we are different. In a marriage, in family, in community, everybody is different. We're supposed to be different. But when we respect each other, we work together, the seemingly impossible becomes possible. I want to share with you one more great story before I finish. I learned in the Mir as a bacher, and I had the privilege of attending the shir of Reb Asher Arieli. Now, I am crazy over Reb Asher Arieli. I have the opportunity to teach Bachrim. I'm a Rebbe in LA. I wouldn't give a shir without listening to his shir first. He gives the biggest shir in the world, 600 Bachrim every day, the biggest daily shir for Bachrim in the world. Now, I've heard so many great shirim, but I'm about to tell you the best shir I heard from Reb Asher Arieli. I had the opportunity to eat by my Rebbe's house one Friday night with my wife and kid. We walk in, and he looks at my son, my oldest son, and he says, "Was ist sein Name? What's his name?" I said to him, his name is Yosef Chaim. It's my oldest son's name. So he asked me, who is he named after? You know, because the Ashkenazim always say Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. And the Sfardim say, the Ben Ish Chai. Yeah, Yosef Chaim Azulai. So who is he named after? So I told him, I said, there's a very interesting story here. You see, I'm Hasidish, I'm Ashkenaz, my wife is Sephardi, she's Syrian. We had our oldest child, and all of a sudden, when she was pregnant, and when we knew it was a boy, we got calls from the Sephardi side of the family, please name him after the living grandfather. Now, by Hasidim, that's a Yehorig Val Yaver, you don't do that. You never, ever do that. It's like a death wish for us. But there was pressure. So my father-in-law, who is such a kind, gracious man, and I love him so much, he said, why don't we go ask a Shaila? So I said, yes, let's go to the Gadol Hador. We're going to go to Rav Chaim Kanievsky. Great. Went to Rav Chaim Kanievsky. I'll never forget this. I went to Rav Chaim Kanievsky quite a few times. I never saw him laugh. Went to Rav Chaim, presented the Shaila with my father-in-law. And Rav Chaim looks at me and he says, is the baby born yet? I said, no. So, maybe it's going to be a girl. Why are you coming to me? And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, it's going to be a girl. The Gadol Hador said, the doctor said it's going to be a boy. He didn't want to give me an answer. He said, wait till the baby is born, come back. Maybe it's irrelevant. Okay. Later I found out that somebody who had a similar shaila, he told him not to do it. So I didn't go back. I wanted to please my shaver. I didn't want machlekes. So we decided to add Chaim. My father-in-law's name is Yosef. We added Yosef Chaim after my great-grandfather that passed away a while ago. Okay, to make it safe, it's Yosef Chaim. Finished. Okay. I'm telling the story to Rav Asher Arieli, to my Rebbe. Friday night, we're having the Suda together. Great. He looks at me, very serious, and he says, can I tell you a story? I said, sure. Like a piece of real estate. Of course. So he tells me, he says, that my wife had very, very difficult pregnancies. She had a difficult time conceiving. And when she was pregnant with our son was born, we had a vikuach. We had a disagreement. She wanted to name the son after her father, Reb Nachum Partzovich, who was the Rosh Yeshiva in the Mir, who was a son of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, a great Torah giant, and it was actually Reb Asher Arieli's Rebbe. She said, look, it's difficult. We don't know what's going to happen, how many more children we're going to have. This is an opportunity. I want to name this child after my father. Rav Asher Arieli says, I wanted to name him after my father. I wanted to name him after my father. Why? Because the Shulchan Aruch says that kavod aviv, that the husband's father, the kavod of the husband's father comes before his father-in-law. So he wanted to name him after his father. So he decided he's going to go ask the Gadol Adar. This is what he tells me. I'm going to go ask Rav Elyashiv, Torah giant. He walks into Rav Elyashiv. This is incredible. Rav Elyashiv looks at him and he doesn't understand the Shaila. Shulchan Aruch is Shulchan Aruch. Now here's where the greatness of my Rebbe comes in. This is the greatest shir I ever heard from him. He says, yeah, I know what the Shulchan Aruch says. That's not what I came for. I didn't come for the Rav to validate my side. I came because I want to be mevatel to my wife. And I'm afraid to go against the Shulchan Aruch. Could you please give me a heter? Rav Elyashiv looks at him. Rav Elyashiv says, you can have a heter, so beseder. You'll have more choices. You'll have more choices. Now, I once told over the story, you're not going to believe this. I once told over the story in LA to a group of women. I got an email a few days later. A woman emailed me that her daughter is in seminary and Rebbetzin Arieli teaches her Chumash. When she heard the story, she didn't believe me. So she emailed her daughter to go over to Rebbetzin Arieli to verify the story and make sure it's true. She wants to tell me, Rabbi Gold, your story is true. I say, thank you. Of course I know it's true. I heard it from Rav Asher. We have to look at our protruding knobs. Sometimes it's difficult to give in a relationship, in a marriage, but we have to remember the point of connection is where there's a hole over there, there's a protruding knob over here, just apply it. Go out of your comfort zone, squeeze yourself in, and give the other person, fill the other person's hole. Because ultimately we need to remember that Bakei Shalom, Asay Tov, Netzer L'Shoincha, our interpersonal relationships, that's the cornerstone of a happy and fulfilling life. Not just because Harvard says so. That's what David HaMelech says. That's what the Torah says. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure speaking for you, and I hope to be back. Thank you.